Alright, I was just at the gun show here in Pennsylvania and I picked myself up a Springfield Armory Hellcat, and this is what's called the Gear Up package, which I guess they're doing with a lot of their different firearms. Just the Hellcat 9mm 3-inch pistol, and it does come with 5 magazines of various capacity, which we'll look at. The pistol, 5 magazines, and a nice range bag. So it comes with this nice, it's kind of a compact range bag. It's not a huge, but it will certainly carry everything that you need. Comes with a gun down inside. It does not come with a manual. The manual can be found at this QR code, and I did. You can get a printed manual, but it doesn't come with a printed manual. But if you register your gun online, you get a free 2-year subscription to the Armory Life magazine by, I guess that's by Springfield or Springfield staff, and you can get your manual this way, which I did. And then the actual gun itself, which is nice. It comes in its own little bag, which is kind of cool. Now let's see what's in here. You got your magazine loader. You have a base plate, a flush mount base plate, which is an option. Here we have a 13-round magazine, obligatory safety lock. Alright, so it comes with that. Alright, so the actual Hellcat is right here. Really nice little gun. Comes with an 11-round magazine right here. Now this 11-round magazine has this extra little grip plate down at the bottom for a base plate, an extended base plate, which I'm going to need. I don't have huge hands. I have like medium hands, I think, but even so, I need to have that down there. I don't like a gun where my pinky is kind of out in no man's land, so I'm going to keep this on here, but it comes with a flush mount base plate, so if you wanted it to be even smaller and more concealable, you can put this on and make the gun just a little bit smaller. And in here you have, there we go, there's the other magazines. 3 more magazines coming here, and it does have a pocket in the middle here where you can slip your magazines in there. Looks like there's room in here for 5, actually, or 6 magazines. It's got another little slot here. You can stick your gun in there or put it in the main pocket. Alright, so let's look at these magazines. Alright, so in total, the Hellcat Gear Up package comes with 5 magazines. There's an 11, a 13, another 13, 11-round magazine, 2 13-round magazines, and 2 15-round magazines. So let me show you. With the 15-round, it sure gives you a nice grip here. I really do like that. I might even carry it that way because I have a feeling it's going to be a little easier to shoot with more grip down here. But we'll give all these magazines a try. This is your 13-round. It gives you a little bit of a grip at the bottom, which is nice. I'll give you a little bit of grip, and this is the smallest mag, and that does give you a little bit of a pinky grip down there. If you've got big hands, you're probably going to definitely want to use the 15-round mag to get your whole hand on the gun. How to field strip a Hellcat 9mm. This is a Springfield Hellcat, and I'm going to show you how to disassemble this for cleaning purposes. And first we want to make sure the gun is unloaded, remove the magazine, check inside for a round in the chamber, make sure it's empty. Alright, once the gun has been verified empty, lock the slide back, rotate the takedown lever to the 12 o'clock position, just like that. Now press the slide back to release the slide stop, allow the slide to move forward, point the gun in a safe direction and press the trigger. That will release the slide completely, and then pull the slide off the front of the frame. Turn the slide over, compress the recoil spring and guide rod assembly like that, and lift up slightly and pull that out. Now you can push the barrel up, get a hold of that, and pull the barrel out. It is now disassembled for cleaning purposes. This is as far apart as you need to take the gun in order to clean it. If you found this video helpful, please hit like below. Please subscribe, and thanks for watching. Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to field strip or disassemble, clean, lubricate, and reassemble the Springfield Hellcat 9mm pistol. Let's get right into it. First we need to unload the Hellcat, so remove any magazines that are in there, lock the slide back, and verify that there is no round in the chamber. I'm going to show you how easy it is to clean the Springfield Hellcat or any similar firearm. All you really need is what we have here. You need some kind of a cleaner. This is a CLP, which is a cleaner, lubricant, and protectant. This is original gun oil. It's the one I prefer. You can use any kind of CLP. This is by Break Free. This is a different kind with a spray head on it, which is nice. I'll put links down in the description for all these products. You need a gun brush. This is actually a dog toothbrush, which has been working great for years. It's got a bigger brush and a smaller brush, which is perfect for cleaning a gun. Cotton swabs, I like these. These have dual tips on them. They have a pointy end and a regular end for getting in different areas of the gun. We're going to use some cut up cotton rags. This is just a t-shirt that I cut up, and a bore snake for cleaning the inside of the barrel, which is called the bore. And I'm going to show you how to use that to make it quick and simple. Basically, we're going to field strip the gun into 4 pieces, clean each piece, lubricate, put it back together, and we'll be done. So first we need to field strip the Hellcat. To do that, just lock the slide back, rotate the takedown lever to the 12 o'clock position, and push the slide back to release the slide stop. Let the slide come forward, point the gun in a safe direction, press the trigger, and now the slide will come off the front of the frame. Turn the slide over, compress the recoil spring and guide rod, and lift it up, pull that out, and now the barrel will lift right out of the slide. And that's it for disassembly or field stripping, and now we can clean each piece. You can start with any of the pieces, but I typically start with the barrel. And I'm just going to show you the inside of this barrel. So if you look down in there, you can see the buildup of carbon on the sides of the barrel and the inside, or the bore, and we're going to clean all that up. What I like to do to get started is to just get my CLP and just put a few drops of the oil down into the barrel, and we're going to let this sit for a few minutes. Now before we do that, so we're just going to get a cotton swab to just kind of smear the oil around to make sure it's kind of coating the inside of the barrel a little bit, so that it can work to start loosening up all the carbon on the inside. And then we're going to come back and we're going to clean out the inside of the barrel. While the barrel is marinating in the oil, we're going to get the slide, and I'm going to kind of do the same thing with the slide. The main places we want to clean are these slots right here. These are called the slide cuts. There's one on each side. This is where the slide moves back and forth on the frame. So it's very important that those are clean. We're going to get this area cleaned up a little bit. This is the breech face. We're going to clean this off real good, and underneath the extractor if necessary. And just kind of do general cleaning in here. So to do that, we're just going to put a couple of drops of CLP. One in the slide cuts, one back here. We don't want to get oil into this area back here where the firing pin moves back and forth. And we don't want to get oil into the firing pin hole, which is right here on the breech face. And after putting a few drops in there, I'm just going to kind of smear those drops around inside here. We're just going to coat everything a little bit with some oil, let it sit for a few minutes, and then we're going to wipe it all down with some cotton rags and cotton swabs. All right, after it sat for a few minutes, we're just going to take a cotton rag and wipe everything down, kind of get the cleaner off and some of the carbon along with it. You can see it's fairly dirty in here. This only has a few hundred rounds through it. All right, just kind of clean it up. One thing I found is to get into the corners and the little slots down in here that are kind of tight, just take a rag and throw it over there, and then use the bristles of the brush to kind of push the rag down into the corners like that. And that does a real good job of getting the rag down into the tight areas. And do the same thing to get the slide cuts. Just kind of use the bristles of the brush to push the rag into those corners on both sides. You can use a smaller end if necessary to get down into the tight spaces. And anywhere you can't get that way, use the pointy tip of your cotton swabs to get down into the slide cuts like this. And just use the pointy tip of your cotton swabs to get down into the slide cuts. Get those nice and clean. Get all the remaining oil out of there. Then you can use the bigger end or whichever end works best to get down inside the corners, anywhere you couldn't get before, with just the rag. And just keep using fresh cotton swabs until you get it as clean as you want it to be. And make sure you get this breech face here. Just don't drip any oil in there. And you want to make sure you get underneath. This hook here is the extractor. You want to make sure there's nothing building up underneath of that extractor there. Alright, this slide looks pretty good on the inside. Okay, so if the outside is dirty, just use a brush to brush it down. If it's real dirty, you might want to put a little CLP on that and get it clean. This one's not very dirty, but if you've got dirt in these grooves, put a little CLP on there and then wipe it all down with a fresh clean rag. Alright, this slide's looking pretty good. Okay, so now we're going to finish cleaning the inside of the barrel or the bore. So we're going to get a bore snake. This is a Hoppe's bore snake, and it's simply a long string of material, and it has built-in copper brushes on it, which are going to scour the inside and break loose any carbon or buildup that's in there. So earlier we put a few drops of gun oil inside the barrel and smeared it around, so now it has had time to loosen all the dirt. So we're simply going to feed the bore snake in here. Alright, and then pull it through. It's going to be a little bit tight where the brushes are, and that's good. And then just pull it through, and all this material is going to fit tightly and scour the inside of the barrel and pull all the dirt out. I like to put it through maybe twice if it's real dirty, maybe a few more times than that. But we'll see how this turns out after going through it twice. So now we can take a look. Did a real nice job cleaning the barrel. It's pretty shiny in there. So the other place on the barrel we want to make sure is clean is this ramp right here. Just put a drop of oil on a cotton swab and just kind of polish that ramp. Polish that ramp up real nice. Alright, that looks good. And then what I'll do is put a drop on the outside of the barrel, and then I'll wipe that outside of the barrel off with the cotton rag. Try and get all the buildup off of there. Alright, and that is all you really need to do on the barrel. Okay, now we're going to move on to the frame of the Springfield Hellcat, and we're basically going to do the same thing. We want to get a little bit of oil on the frame to clean it up, but what I'm going to do is put a drop on the brush instead of on the frame because we don't want too much oil on there. And then we're just going to, you can flip this down and get it out of the way. You want to clean the rails. Basically, that's where the rails are where the slide goes back and forth. You want to get those covered with a little bit of oil on there. Maybe like a half drop on there. And then just kind of clean up some of these areas in here where they have a little bit of carbon. Don't want to get too much oil in there, just a little bit. Alright, and then once you get a little bit of oil in there, just get a rag, wipe that off as best you can. And again, to get into these tighter spots here, you can kind of throw the rag on there and use the dry end of the brush to push the rag down with the bristles into those tight areas. That works really well. Alright, and you can do that here as well. And then just get a cotton swab at the pointy end, anywhere you couldn't get all the oil and cleaner off. Just kind of clean things up with a cotton swab. Alright, and if you've got dirt on the outside, this is a pretty nice aggressive grip on here. You could just use like a clean toothbrush or something along those lines to brush this clean. You could use soap and water a little bit if it's real dirty, or just wipe it with some gun oil. It's not going to hurt it. Alright, as far as cleaning the recoil spring and guide rod, this really doesn't need much attention. If it looks like it's a little dirty, you can just kind of brush it off with a brush. Just kind of clean that up. And you're good to go. Just make sure it's not caked with any kind of buildup, and you're good to go on that. Okay, as far as cleaning the Springfield Hellcat magazine, for the purposes of this video, and most of the time, you can just wipe it down, make sure it's clean, and just make sure that the follower works when you press on it like this. If your magazine is particularly dirty, or if you dropped it in the gravel or the dirt while you're out at the range, you will want to open this up and clean it out in case there's any bits of gravel or dirt inside that might impede the proper functioning of the magazine. So I'm going to create a video, I'll link it up here, that shows you how to disassemble this magazine and clean that completely and put it back together. Lubricating the Springfield Hellcat. You don't need too much lubrication at all on the Springfield Hellcat for it to function properly. Basically, lubrication is going to help prevent corrosion as well as do some lubricating. So what I usually do is just put a drop on a rag. We just want to kind of wipe the inside of the slide down a little bit and just get the slightest little residue of oil in here just to kind of help prevent corrosion. Alright, and then for actual lubrication for functional purposes, just want to put about one small drop in the slide cut on one side, one small drop in the slide cut on the other side, very small, and then just kind of spread that from front to back. Get some lube in that slide cut there. And then just wipe off any excess so it doesn't attract too much dirt. Alright, and then the barrel, you just basically want to put maybe one drop on the barrel and just kind of spread that around pretty good. Just give it a very light coating and then lightly wipe that off a little, so you just leave a very little residue on there. Just enough to see that there's oil on there, but nothing pooling anywhere. This is going to help prevent corrosion as well as help things to work real well. And then on the frame, again, a very small drop of oil on a rag, and just kind of wipe that across any metal pieces on here. Again, mostly as a corrosion preventative, and a small little residue of oil just to keep things running. Alright, that's pretty much it for lubrication. Anything you get on the frame, you can wipe that off. Anything you get on the outside of the slide, just wipe that off, and we'll do a final wipe down after we put it all back together. Alright, so let's reassemble the Springfield Hellcat. Alright, reassembly, take this slide, hold it upside down, take the barrel in this orientation, just drop it in there so it sits in like that. Recoil spring and guide rod, the larger end, this end goes in the front, and then compress that and make sure it sits down right in the slot all the way in the front of that lug like that, so it's nice and parallel to the slide. Alright, and if this takedown lever is horizontal, you want this to be vertical. Alright, and then line up the slide on the frame. Just slide it right on like that. Slide it all the way back. Lock it with the slide stop. Then move the takedown lever back horizontal again. Move the slide back to release the slide stop and let it come forward. And now that you've put a little bit of lube in there, you want to just work the slide maybe 5 or 10 times to get that lube spread around a little bit. If any lube comes out, then you probably put too much on there. You can just wipe it off. And then do a final wipe down of the gun. And before you take it to the range, you might want to watch the video. I'll make a link up here. It's a function and safety video. Just a few quick things to go over real quick before you use your Hellcat to make sure everything's working properly. Alright, if you found this video helpful, please hit like below. Please check out the description for all the items we used here in the video. This is going to be a quick function and safety check on the Springfield Hellcat 9mm pistol. Anytime you disassemble and reassemble your firearm for cleaning or any other reason, or the magazine, it's a good idea to run through a couple of quick tests to make sure all the functions and safeties are working properly. The Springfield Hellcat user manual does not have a particular procedure for this, and I've taken a lot of these checks from other manufacturers' manuals. Alright, so first we always want to make sure the gun is completely unloaded, no magazine, and no round in the chamber. So there is a quick check that you can do before you even completely put the firearm back together. There's a safety feature that keeps the firearm from firing if you were to drop it. And it makes use of this plunger right here. This is called the striker pin safety. This plunger prevents the firing pin from coming through the breech face unless the trigger is being pressed. So when you press the trigger, the internal mechanism presses this plunger, which will then allow the firing pin to come through and hit your primer. So when this is working normally, when you're not pressing on this plunger, you should not be able to press the striker in the back and have that striker come through the breech face. However, if you press on this plunger and push it, it should come through. So that's a good test to make sure that this safety is working properly. Alright, so that's one quick check before you even put the firearm back together. So next we're going to do the magazine check. So you just want to make sure that when you put the magazine in, the magazine stays put and is real secure until you press the magazine release. The next check we're going to do is on the trigger safety. This little lever here on the front of the trigger needs to be pressed before the trigger will go back. So you want to wrap the slide and grab the sides of the trigger and don't press the trigger safety, and try to press the trigger. It should not go anywhere and the gun should not fire and the striker should not fall. And then make sure that when you do press the trigger properly, always point it in a safe direction when you press the trigger, that the striker will fall and you can hear that fall. Next we're going to do the trigger reset check. So basically rack the slide. Okay, so we're going to press the trigger again, but you want to hold it to the rear. So press the trigger, hold it to the rear, rack the slide to reset, then slowly release pressure on the trigger until you hear the click, which is the reset. And once you hear that, if you press the trigger again, it should fire again. Alright, so that's working perfectly. If your firearm has a manual safety on it, this one does not. But if it has a manual safety, it would be back here. So what you want to do is rack the slide, put the manual safety on, press the trigger, and it should not fire. Then take the safety off, press the trigger, and it should fire. Okay, so that's the check for the external safety. The last test that I do is a test to make sure that the magazine is working properly and feeding properly, and that the gun is extracting and ejecting properly. So to do that, I'm simply going to load dummy rounds into each of the magazines that I use. These are the dummy rounds I use. I just like these because they're orange and they're obvious that they're dummy rounds. These are by A-Zoom. I'll leave a link in the description below. But all I'm going to do here is load 5 dummy rounds into any magazine that I've disassembled. Now I'm going to verify that my firearm is unloaded. I'm going to load it up with dummy rounds. So now I have 1 dummy round in the chamber and 4 in the magazine. So I'm going to simulate firing the gun by simply racking the slide to the rear. And each time I rack the slide, it should extract and eject 1 dummy round, and it's going to throw it across the room for me. And the slide should lock back after the last round on an empty magazine to show that everything is working normally. So you want to rack the slide very briskly to the rear and let go of it. You don't want to ride it forward because you want to make sure that the spring closes the slide. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and demonstrate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it locked back on an empty magazine, so everything is good to go. All right, if you found this video helpful, you can check out the description below for links to dummy rounds if you don't have any. They come in handy for a lot of different uses. Please hit the like button below, please subscribe, and thanks for watching. Today I'm going to go over the Springfield Hellcat magazine disassembly. The Hellcat has 3 different size magazines that you can get for it. If you purchase the Gear Up package, it comes with all 3. You have an 11 round magazine, a 13 round magazine, and a 15 round magazine. And they're all just a little bit different as to how you take them apart, how to remove the base plate on the bottom, just a little bit different than typical magazines. So we're just going to look at that real quick. You may also have the flush base plate for your 11 round magazine, and we'll show you that as well. Alright, so starting with the 11 round magazine, if you look in this hole carefully, you're just going to see a portion of the magazine spring in there. So all you need to do is get a pin punch or a screwdriver or something and push that down just a little bit, and then you can start pushing the base plate off. Now, word of caution here, please wear eye protection if you're doing this, or at least point this away from you. I'm going to point it in this direction so you can see what I'm doing, but this spring is under a lot of pressure, so as soon as I pull this off, the spring is going to want to go flying. So put your thumb over top, pull that off, and that spring, as you can see, is pretty forceful. So you can see on the bottom, there's just a little lip that catches on the spring to keep it in place. The spring just comes out, and this is the orientation where it goes in, and then your follower just falls out, and the follower looks like this, and this is how it goes in to the magazine when you put it back together. So these are relatively clean, but I'm just going to show you, this is the magazine tube. All you really want to do here is get a cotton cloth. I use cut up t-shirts, just kind of push that through the magazine tube to remove any dirt that has gotten inside, or you could spray some degreaser in here or alcohol, just something to clean the inside, but you don't really want to put oil in there. Clean the tube and just wipe down the spring with a cloth. It's real easy. Clean these magazines. Clean the follower up real good if it's dirty, so it's best to just use something dry or even soap and water, because this is plastic, so that'll do a nice job for you. And then the base plate, if it needs to be cleaned, just wipe that as well. Alright, to put the Springfield 11 round magazine back together, you want to hold the tube like this, and the follower, it goes in this orientation. So just put it in the bottom, slide it in, and then take your spring, and the spring is going to go in this orientation like this. So push it in. Alright, and now this part here is a little bit tricky, so we're going to put on the flush mount magazine to see how that goes on. It's going to go in this way with the flat part against the flat back of the magazine, so it's going to slide on from the front. Push the magazine spring down as best you can. Again, make sure you have eye protection on. Get it flush with the bottom of the magazine, and then start this sliding on there. Make sure it's all the way flush, and these slots go into the slots in the magazine base plate, and then kind of push that on. And once you force it in there, you'll see the spring has snapped into place, so it should look just like this when you look through that bottom. Make sure it's flush here and everything looks good, and make sure you can't push that off the front. Alright, now go to the other side. Make sure you can press down on this, and it goes in against the magazine spring. At the end of the video, I'm going to show you how I test every magazine after I reassemble it to make sure it's going to feed properly. Okay, and now we get to the 13 round magazine. So this is built and looks similar, although the bottom has a different kind of a base plate. So you see there's a piece of metal here. This is part of the base plate inside. And if you look right here, it looks like a button. It's not actually a button. It's part of a base plate that you're going to see in a moment. So what you want to do is push that base plate down until this piece of metal goes down as far as it's going to go. Start pushing it. Pull the pin out, and now you got it started. And again, make sure you have eye protection here because this is spring loaded. Put your thumb over top, pull that off. Okay, looks like that. And then this will spring up like this. So you got this strange kind of base plate connected on here. You can take that off if you want to clean it, but this is how it goes on there. This is the first magazine I've ever seen built like this. So anyway, the spring comes out like this, and this is the orientation of the spring. And then the follower drops right out, and this is the orientation that it goes back in. We're going to put it back together, and I'll show you how that goes. The follower, this kind of bigger flat piece, goes on the back of the magazine. So it'll drop in like that. Then your spring in this orientation goes this way. Push it in place. Alright, once you put the spring in, now you want to push the base plate down. You want to make sure that this metal piece is covering the spring and push it down. Make sure that everything is flush with the bottom, just like that, and make sure this is on the outside. Alright, hold it down like that. Then take your base plate, holding it down nice and even. Slide that on. Make sure the slots are lined up properly. Hold this in place and then slide that on over top. Alright, so it feels like it's on right now, but this is not correct. This has to go up into the base a little bit. So what you have to do is kind of force it down a little bit and just jiggle it a little bit until this piece pops back up in there. So this is how it should look, just like that. And that little piece that you see that you press down on should be pretty close to the bottom there. Alright, so that's how it needs to look. Make sure it doesn't come off when you press on it. And now your 13 round magazine is back together. Finally, the 15 round magazine. Now this one comes apart similar to the 11 round magazine. It just has this extra grip area here. So this is kind of tight, but this just pushes down. You could actually take this all the way off the magazine, and it goes on this orientation like that. The flatter part in the back to cover this little gap in the bottom. And then to take the base plate off, just like the first one, you can see a little bit of the spring here. So what you need to do is just push that down, and then while you're holding it down, push the base plate forward until it starts coming off the magazine. Put your thumb over here, protect your eyes, pull this off, then the magazine comes apart just like the 11 rounder does. And then pull the spring out. The spring goes in this orientation. The follower just drops out and it goes in this way. Alright, so just clean this up like we did the other ones, and the reassembly is just the opposite. Put this in here like that. You want to get the spring down in there as far as you can. Start the magazine base plate over the top until it gets in there. Make sure this part of the spring goes underneath once this comes on. Make sure you're lined up in the slots like that. And then push this magazine down in there. Once it snaps in place, you should be able to see that piece of the spring snapped in there, and just make sure the base plate does not push off with your finger. we can put the grip piece back on here, and that's going to go on this way. So you just push it on the top and then slide it all the way down so it looks just like that. Alright, whenever I'm done putting together a magazine, I want to make sure it is going to function properly in my gun. So what I do is I get some dummy rounds. These are A-Zoom dummy rounds. They come in packs of 10 or packs of 5. I generally use 5 at a time to test my magazines. So all I do is take the magazine that I just reassembled and I load 5 dummy rounds into it. Alright, then I take my Springfield Hellcat, verify that it is unloaded, and I load the magazine with the dummy rounds in it. Close the action. So now I have a dummy round loaded in the chamber and 4 more in the magazine. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to simulate firing the gun by just racking the slide briskly to the rear, and each time I rack the slide, one of the dummy rounds should be ejected and another one should be loaded. So I should be able to rack this 5 times, and on the 5th time it should lock back because the magazine is empty, and if everything is working properly, the slide will lock back on an empty magazine. So what you want to do is rack the slide to the rear, and then you want to let go of it and let it close on its own spring power. Alright, so I'm just going to do this 5 times and see how we make out. Alright, and it locked back on the last time. So it looks like this magazine is working properly. So you want to repeat this for the other magazines that you have reassembled. Alright, so if you found this video helpful, please hit like below. Please check out the description for some dummy rounds if you need them. Please subscribe, and thank you for watching. Today I'm going to show you how to reverse the magazine release on the Springfield Hellcat 9mm pistol. So we're going to take the magazine release from the left side of the gun and we're going to move it over to the right side of the gun for left-handed shooters. First, make sure there's no magazine in the gun. Lock the slide back, make sure there is no round in the chamber, verify that it's unloaded. This is going to be easiest if we remove the slide. So with the slide locked back, rotate the takedown lever to 12 o'clock, release the slide toward the front, press the trigger, and keep moving the slide off of the front of the frame. Okay, so when you look down inside of the grip area here, this is a spring. This long straight piece of metal here is a spring. When you press the slide release, you can see it sliding back and forth. This is the catch right here that holds the magazine in place. That little catch locks into the side of the magazine. So what we want to do to release that spring, make sure you have a finger pressing on this side of the release so that it doesn't push out while you're trying to manipulate the spring. I'm going to get the screwdriver down inside behind the spring, push it that way, rotate it so that it comes out of the little notch that it was in. You can kind of see that notch right there. Alright, and then once that is out, now it's sitting in front of the magazine release. So next we need to pull that out of there. Get your needle nose pliers in there. Just grab a hold of that spring and pull it straight out of the bottom. And now your magazine release is just kind of loose and it comes right out of the gun. We want to put it back in the opposite way. Alright, so hold it this way. This is the way we want it. And feed it through from the other side of the gun. Put your finger up there in the middle if it helps. Get it in place so it's on the right side of the gun. Get a hold of your spring with the needle nose pliers. And just push it down in at the bottom of that V-notch there. Make sure you push it in all the way. As far down as it goes. And it should look like that. And now holding on to the non-activation side of the magazine release, get your screwdriver the opposite way. And we're just going to put it in and we're going to push it back behind that notch. Now we have it on the other side of the gun for a left-handed shooter. Alright, before we go any further, let's reassemble the firearm. Just put the slide back on, push it all the way to the rear, lock it in place, rotate your takedown lever back, release the slide. Alright, and now we want to put a magazine in. Make sure it does not come out when we pull on it, and make sure when we press the magazine release, it falls right out. Test that a couple of times, and you're done. You have now reversed the magazine button or the magazine release to the other side of the Springfield Hellcat 9mm. If you found this video helpful, please hit like below. Please check out the description for some gun products, and thank you for watching. Today we're going to disassemble the Springfield Hellcat slide. Specifically, we're going to remove the extractor and the extractor piston and spring and the firing pin or striker assembly. First, as we always do, verify the gun is unloaded, and then we're going to field strip and remove the slide, remove the recoil spring and guide rod and the barrel. Alright, so first thing we need to do is get this cover piece off. Okay, before we start, you need to have eye protection. There are a lot of springs involved here. There are things that can potentially be launched into your face or into your eye. We don't want that to happen to cause any problems. Alright, in order to get this rear cover off, it slides this way, but there are two things that are putting pressure on it. There's a spacer under here that is part of the trigger mechanism that's putting upward pressure on that, as well as this is the extractor piston here. It's putting pressure on the extractor, but also up against this plate. And to do that, we need to press down on this little square here. Now be aware that this square is plastic, and if you're going to use a metal tool, you're probably going to bugger it up just a little bit like I did here. So you want to press down on this square here and use the pin punch just to get it started. Just to get it started a little, so you can see it's just moved a little bit. You don't want to move it too far, because then this is going to launch out of here and hit the ceiling like mine did. So now to get it the rest of the way out, you want to get a pin punch, ideally that has a little point on the end, so it kind of fits in this little divot here at the top. Alright, and then when you press down on that, you'll be able to slide this cover right on out. Okay, then let go gently, because that's a very strong spring right there. Alright, and once you do that, you can pull your extractor kind of spring piston here, and then you can pull your firing pin assembly right out. And now your extractor is being held in by this spring-loaded pin here. So if you press down on this, your extractor kind of starts to fall out of there like that, and then gently let go of this spring so you don't lose it, and then that'll, you have a spring and your little plunger here. This piece does come apart if you want to pull that apart for cleaning, and there's most of your pieces, and then you can also take this firing pin apart. So you want to get something like a smart bench block, or just do it on the edge of the table or something. Rest it on the bottom of this metal lug here. Grab the spring about right here, push down, and then you want to just take these two cup halves out. Alright, and then slowly release the pressure on the spring, and it'll come right up. And this is your firing pin spacer. Assembly comes apart just like that. Alright, and once we have everything apart, basically you just want to wipe everything down and make sure it's clean. I'm just going to use cotton cloth. I'm going to use some cotton swabs. I like these cotton swabs. They have a pointy end and a regular end. They're great for cleaning all the other parts of the gun. And for a pipe cleaner, I like to use the Otis pipe cleaners. I'm just going to wipe down every piece here real quick. Just wipe down the extractor. If you can't get in all the little nooks and crannies, that's what the cotton swabs are for. And when you get to the firing pin spacer, yeah, it gets a little bit cruddy in there. Clean that up real good. If you want to get inside the spring, you can use that. Get your firing pin, wipe that down real good, especially this area. That's where it comes through the breech face. Wipe everything. You can wipe these little cups. Alright, and then this clean, I'm not going to clean the whole slide just for this video. We're just going to clean the areas where the firing pin goes and the firing pin parts. You want to get down in this channel. You can use solvent here if you want. Just make sure you get it all out of there so it's nice and dry and clean. Alright, and then the last thing I always do is get a pipe cleaner through here so it can come through the, so you can get something to come through the actual breech face there to clean that up real good. And another place for the pipe cleaner is right down in this channel where the extractor spring goes. You can put that through there and clean that up real good. Just clean all this up down in here. Clean the breech face while we're here. Alright, and then you want to clean the rest of the slide before you put it back together, but we're just focusing on the extractor and firing pin areas at the moment. Alright, now let's start putting things back together. Alright, let's start by putting the firing pin and striker assembly back together. Alright, so first thing you do is put the firing assembly into the spacer like that, and then the spring, doesn't matter which way, goes on here. Alright, and now this is a little tricky to put these cups back in here. Alright, so what we want to do is pinch the spring, hold it down below the throat here. Take the first half cup and put it in like that, kind of pinch it in between your finger, and then put the second one in and slowly release tension on the spring up onto the cups, and it should look like that. Alright, so next, if you took the spring off of here, this spring goes on here, it pushes on, this little piece stays inside the spring, and then this piece pushes on. Now that will spin because that's going to have to be in a certain position, as we'll see later. Alright, so we put that together. In order to put the extractor and the safety plunger back in, first thing you want to do is drop your safety plunger spring in there like that. Then you want to put this safety plunger in this way. Put your safety plunger in this way. Alright, put your finger on it and then kind of look through this slot right here, and you want to push it down until the slot in it lines up like this. Alright, so now when it's lined up like that, you can get your extractor and kind of put it in from the inside so it sits in like that. Once you get it to sit flush, you can let go of the spring up here and it won't pop out because it's now kind of locking the extractor in place. Now you can take your extractor spring, whatever you want to call that, put it in here, and that needs to go in a certain way. Now you'll kind of see that, so you want to see it come through like that. So if it's turned the wrong way, just turn it until you see it slide in place just like that. Alright, and now we want to put the firing pin back in, so that goes in this way. And it slides right in that slot, so everything looks like this now. You want to kind of line things up so this slot is facing in. If it's not, you can twist this, but make sure you put pressure on it so it doesn't pop out down here when you turn that. So you want to turn it so the slot is facing like that. It's going to make room for this to slide in, and that's going to get locked up in that notch. Right, so right at this point, you want to kind of get ready to slide this in. It's not going to go in yet because the spacer's in the way. So get a flat pin punch, push that down enough so you can start this in the slot. Now you only want to go a little part way, far enough to hold that down. So it's going to look like this. Alright, so now we need to press this down, which is a pretty strong spring. So you get a pin punch with a little pin on the end, with a little point on the end like that, would be the easiest way to go. And then push that straight down and push this with your thumb until it locks in place. And once everything is in place like that, everything is now back together. You should be able to push this back with a very heavy spring pressure pushing against you like that. And the other thing is when you press forward on the back of the firing pin, it does not come through right here unless you press on the safety plunger. If you press on the safety plunger, then the firing pin will come through the breech face. That's how that works, and that is there to prevent the gun from firing if you were to drop the gun. If you were to drop the gun and the momentum is such that this pin comes flying forward to hit your round that's sitting here, it can't do it because this is in the way. So when you press the trigger, this is pushed up before the striker is released and allows it to come through. Alright, so now you can put your barrel in there, recoil spring and guide rod in there. Alright, and now you can put it back on your frame. Alright, go all the way back, lock it, rotate here, and then let it go. Make sure it feels right. And next thing we want to do is go through a function and safety check. I'll put the link up here in the corner to make sure that your gun is functioning normally before you take it out to the range. Alright, if you found this video helpful, please hit like below. Check out the description for all the tools and cleaning supplies that we used here in the video. Please subscribe and thanks for watching.